All right. In this little tutorial, we're going to work in Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator, current version 2023. So this will definitely work in anything past that. Today, we're going to try to make some 3D UI elements. It's all the rage, right? So just open up a new document. And then the first thing you want to do is just go ahead and lay out what it is your UI should look like. So right now we don't need to be too precious with it. Just blocking it out. I'll increase the line weight a little bit so we can see that a little better. And obviously if you were doing this for real, you might want to make sure this is the correct dimensions for what it is you're designing this UI for an iPhone or whatever. But we're just going to approximate things this time around. So yeah, so there's our boundary of the UI. And let's say, what should we do? We need some elements on here, like a little floating module tab right here. Maybe two smaller tabs down in here. All right. We can select all of those new boxes, hold down Command, and make those corners rounded. Go ahead and round them corners, right? All right. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this back rectangle, rounded rectangle, and toggle that. I'm going to go with no stroke. And then I just kind of want this to be like whatever the background of the UI will be. And let's go ahead and use gradient. We'll use the new freeform gradient tool. See, it just drops in these fun little points that you can recolor. And as long as you're in this mode, you can select one of the other points and give it a color. Select an existing color and drag it onto the point. Works as well. And then what's nice about that is then you can play around with your sliders. I like to use the HSB, hue saturation balance. So maybe we want a darker purple down here. Let's get our pink and drag it over to this bottom corner. And kind of like the brightness that the white is giving us. You can play with the influence. I find that that's not always the best. Another way you can do it is select this and then it's loaded that color. Then you can just click in here. If you drag it off, you're going to lose the influence of this color. Yeah. Again, we can always grab one of these colors, drag it on that existing dot, and call it good that way. All right, we'll call that good for now. So, Command Shift back thinger. So I'm trying to decide what I want to do here, because we could chop this off somewhere and leverage that frame behind there, but I think going to use that as kind of the device itself, little clay device. So let's go back and select that boy, and I'm going to use object path offset path. Unfortunately, you're not seeing my menu. It's being chopped off, but it's up there. And then looks like 10 pixels, way too small. 30, it's getting closer. 40, yeah, that works. Now I can delete that original one, throw that in the background. We've still got the black stroke on there. We'll leave it for now, but eventually we'll take that off. We can lose the strokes on these ones. And I'm trying to decide what I want to do up here in the hero section, whether I want to do anything in the footer area. You know, obviously whatever you decide to do can be as complex or as minimal as you'd like it to be. Let's just say this is some fancy timekeeping app. So we're going to put some big old clock up here. And the nice thing is, you know, I'm putting this together in Illustrator, but in this day and age, I know all the kids are using Figma, and so you can use Figma to design it and then copy and paste the SVG vectors into Illustrator and then move forward from there. But I was already here, so I decided to just keep on keeping on. Alright, let's make that a black or something for now. Got to tidy things up a little bit. Make sure those things are lined up. Slide those down a bit. This is a clock, right? So I'm going to select, copy that middle circle, Command C, Command Shift V to paste it in place. Scale it on down. And then I'm going to give it some hands. And hit Command U to turn on Smart Guides. That way I can snap these to the edges of the shape here. And obviously there's a million ways to do the same thing. This is just one way to do it. One man's way. Okay. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead and use the Pathfinder, merge those together, make compound shape, expand, and then I'm going to grab these two guys. Well, let's see, is that what I want to do, or do I want to use this tool? Let's use this tool, the Distort tool. I always get confused which one's which. There we go. Hold down Command and it will taper the entire shape. Okay, so we got something looking a little bit more like an hour hand. I'm going to grab those top 2 points and create the rounded rectangle there. Grab this and Command C, Command Shift V, and if I were to just rotate it, you can see it's not rotating where I want it to do. by just using the bounding box. But if I hit R, I get this handy dandy rotate gizmo, and I can click where I want it to be to try to center it better. Hit R again and re-click if you weren't happy with that. And then you just click anywhere outside and set the time that you want it to be, right? Okay, cool. Now, holding down Command, we get our bounding box again. And again, there's different ways we can do this. We can just grab it and stretch it, or maybe I want to go into point mode. Just grab these 3 points. Looks like there must be something wonky going on. Yep, extra point. So if I hit Command Y, I can get into this view where I can drag a shape around those 3 points, pull it out, and there's more precise ways to do this, but I'm just going to eyeball it, pull it out a little ways, and then when I'm happy, hit Command Y. There we go. Maybe we need to, overthinking it. If I select these again, hit R for rotate, and then click the spot I want it to be. We can rotate both hands and get something that looks a little more natural. Okay, now we want to add the little dashes around the edges. So I'm going to grab this sphere again, Command C, or circle, Command C, Shift V, scale it down to center, holding Shift and Option. This is just to give me my center point. And then I'm going to draw a little box that represents the first dash. Okay, we'll make that white. Okay, and then I want to make sure that's centered, so I'll select the white box and then the circle, go to Align, and then I want to align it to a key object. So I click this button, and then click the key object, which is that, then hit the line on the center, and boom, it is now centered. Okay, now I will group those together, and again up in the menu, go to Effect, Distort, Transform, Transform, and we've got some different options here, and we want 12 dashes, right? So I believe 11, because it's might have to change it to 12, I don't remember. And then start to rotate, and you can see got something going on here. Not exactly what I want, so grabbing this little gizmo here, click on the bottom button so that it's rotating by the bottom of this little gizmo that we've set up here. It's not working exactly as I'd like. Let's see what happens if 12. Let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So yeah, we definitely want 11. Okay, and now you're like, well, that's not evenly distributed. It's not looking right. So what we need to do is take our number of total hashes, which is 12, and divide it by 360. Or 360 divided by 12. So 360 divided by 12, enter, boom. Did everything spaced perfectly, just how we want it. Bada bing, bada bang. And if I were to select the whole thing, I can, whoops. I should be able to kind of move it around because, it's not quite centered, and that's because it's going by this bottom point. It's a long story. No worries. You can scale it. Get it right where you want it, essentially. And this mess in the middle, we don't need to worry about because we're going to be deleting that. So with it selected, go up in the menu again, Object, Expand Appearance. Okay, and now it's all connected together. If I double click on that, I'm going to isolate it. Then I can just drag a marquee, a box, selection box around this, delete it, double click outside, and now we've got our grouped dashes on our clock. Yeah, really crazy stuff, huh? That, to be honest, is something I just learned in the past year. So I've been using Illustrator for 25 years and barely learned that. So I don't know how long it's been around. Nothing to laugh about. It's a sad, sad day. Okay, so we've got our clock. We need something to go down here. Maybe, I'm spending way more time designing this UI than I had planned. I'm going to type the day, which today in my world it's Thursday. Write that out. Okay, we'll just go ahead and go to Properties and align it to center with Smart Object tool. What's it called? With Smart Guides enabled, I can just drag that around and it will snap to center. I don't think I want to use Myriad Pro. Let's try something else. I've been using Amboy in a lot of stuff lately for some reason. Just kind of like it. Give it a little kerning there. Okay, so it is Thursday. Okay. Great. What else? Probably the exact date. That sound good? We'll just Option Shift to duplicate that. And what is today? Well, it is January 26th, 2023. You're thinking, wow, you've got all that the same weight, looks like trash. You're right. Let's find another font, a nice sans font perhaps, that will complement what we got going on here. Maybe. All right, sure, this works. Light. Let's change this to 25. Font size, and I'm working at a huge scale. Now, doesn't really matter what scale you work at for this technique, so you just do you. But if you're making real-world stuff for an actual app, it is helpful to be at the right scale. Okay, so we'll call that good. Now what to do down on these two little guys? Maybe these are little quick links to the previous month and the subsequent month or whatever. The month of Thursday for both of them, right? So we'll just change that to December. Change this one to February. I have to say it like that or I won't spell it right. Okay, digging it. And then we could have a bunch of boxes that represent days of the week, perhaps. We could number them. We'll see what happens. I'll just go ahead and create a box. I'm going to turn off Smart Guides for now. Command U. And then, let's see, there's 7 days a week. So, just duplicate these until we have 7. Okay, what do you know? Go ahead and select them all. And then using align, distribute objects, just distribute them evenly. Okay. And then hit Command U to go back into Smart Guides, and then we can kind of drag it around until it's centered again. Option Shift to duplicate that down. And with Smart Guides, it's helping me have the right distance. These little pink arrow guys. Okay. So then, I don't remember exactly what the spread is here, but let's do something like that. And now with as much space as that's taken up, I need to either make those boxes, those black boxes smaller, or this container box bigger. I'm going to try making the black boxes smaller. Command Y, select those, Shift, and deselect the container. Command Y, and then Command G to group them. Then I'm just going to Option Shift to scale those down a bit. And bada bing, we've got something that looks somewhat halfway decent. But the black is pretty heavy, so let's just make that a lighter gray, shall we? Okay. And then just Option Shift to drag it on over to the other date box. And just to be different, well, let's change these boxes here so it's not the same. Okay, so a little bit different, whether that's correct. It's February, so it's a shorter month. We'll get rid of a couple more. Okay, so that's somewhat believable. Cool. And then what other nice little elements might we want to do? I think we're getting to a place where it's probably good to move forward. I'm just going to do some pixel pushing. Okay. I'm going to select everything, all the content, Command G, and then just select everything. Hit the horizontal line. Looks like we're centered. Cool. Command Shift G to ungroup that. Okay. Clock should all be grouped together, probably. Not that it matters. We'll probably be ungrouping it soon enough. Okay. And then, again, we're not going to have this be a black outline. It'll be something else. So just to visualize it a little better, let's go to Layers, create a new layer, drag that layer to the bottom. Let's lock the top layer. Let's create some kind of just gradient in the background. Just grab my circle tool, create a big circle, centered, and just going to go ahead and grab a darker purple and go ahead and darken that up. Looks like it's being weird. Let's try something else here. Don't you like me? Yeah, okay. Grab a dark purple, get rid of the stroke, not make it white. Okay, so we've got that selected. Hit gradient. Let's do a radial gradient. We lost our purple. That's okay. It's still here. So we'll just grab it and drag it onto the gradient swatch. Get rid of the white. Let's click in another purple. Get rid of the black. And then what I want to do is make one of these points 0 opacity. Oh, looks like I chose the right one. Okay, so then that gives us a faded circle, and you can play with, you know, the sliders on the gradient bar. You gotta have it selected. Dial that in to where you want it. Okay, now we've got this glaring problem with the, gotta lock that layer, unlock the new layer. Let's grab that phone piece, get rid of the black outline. Already that's looking better. And then, you know, eventually these elements will be slightly transparent, which will be fun. And I'm just kind of wondering if I should do that now or later. But see, that softens things up. So we'll play with that later. Okay, so before we get into my technique for 3D, understanding that there are multiple ways to do things in Illustrator. This is just one dude's process. But before we get into that, we need to get rid of our strokes and our fonts. We need to flatten them. So there are no strokes. You can see that here. But go to Type and Create Outlines to get rid of the fonts. And so now everything's a shape. Okay. Okay. So now we'll grab that. Remember, our background layer is locked. Hit Command G, and then back to this fun little tool. What do they call that tool? The Free Transform tool. So click on that and then select the one at the bottom, Free Distort. Now I've seen a tutorial on YouTube where they were able to kind of do this in Figma, and it looked nice, don't get me wrong, but you're limited to, you know, an isometric view without any perspective. But here we can get all up in that perspective. Make sure our smart guides are off. So just kind of drag these arrows around, and you might see the gradient freaking out a little bit as it's recalculating. But get that to a place where you think it looks nice. And the beautiful thing is this isn't just like a one and done, you know. So if I command click off of it and it's unselected, it's not like, okay, I've lost it and the bounding box resets. Instead, thankfully, I click on it again. Look at that, it's right where it was. So let's say that's good enough. Okay, the fonts look pretty close. And there's ways, you know, we can use some of these other tools and get a more exact perspective. But again, if it looks good, it looks good. Oops, what do we do there? Uh-oh. I'm seeing some weirdness in our hand. One of our hands just decided to disappear on me. It's obviously in there. Okay. Well, we will get to the bottom of that. Let's double click in here. Command Y, find that. Let's do a Command Shift bracket up. Nope. For some reason it's just being weird. Huh. Why does it not want to be alive? Well, hopefully we figure that out, but let's move on. Okay, so first thing first is Command Shift G a couple times to make sure it's all unselected. And you can see it is. And it's doing some weird things, likes to jump around and stuff for some reason. But we won't let that get us down. So let's add some 3D to the device. So holding down Option, you can just drag it. Whoops, you got to grab the right one. Drag it down and Command Shift left bracket to send it to the back, and then just scale it down a little bit. Okay. And we want this to be kind of have a shadow on it and be kind of, 3D looking. So we're going to grab it, we're going to add a gradient. So I'm just going to select this purple gradient in the back, and then we'll fix it, but at least it gets our color. We'll change it to linear. Grab this knot and change it to 100%, and then we will make it white. And this is way too strong of a shadow, so we'll grab something over here, kill that. So now we're seeing that it is a gradient from white to super light purple. Maybe we'll, just so we can see things, we'll grab another lightly purple piece and drag it up to the top here. And then using our gradient tool on the left, we can just kind of drag a gradient shape till we get something that is kind of interesting. Okay, so I've added a gradient to that. What? Yeah, yep. Let's go ahead and grab that front piece and, copy that gradient. But we're going to change it a little bit. We want it has more light, and so we'll get rid of this purple at the top so that we have a nice white up at the top. Might play with the gradient tool until we've got kind of the white where we want it. Okay, so we're seeing something. It's not too believable yet, but something. Okay, so now we can grab the blend tool over here, and you can select both pieces and go up to the object menu and do blend, but I like using the tool. Click on the first piece, then the second piece. And you can see it's added kind of an in-between in between the two original pieces. But that's not quite the look we want, so double click on keeping that selected, double click on the blend tool, and we get our handy dandy blend options. And I like to choose specified distance of 1 pixel, and then we'll hit OK. And it's blending between the two gradients, and it's being kind of weird right now, and that's probably because the gradient's being twisted in weird ways. So if you grab that bottom piece with the direct selection tool and then drag out the gradient tool again, you can find something that will fix it and feel better. And then selecting that bottom piece, we can even play with colors. Like maybe first we got to figure out which one's top and which one's bottom. But say we add another purple in here, select that, go to the hue, saturation, balance, add a little more darkness, yeah, so that's affecting this bottom edge, which is what I want. And then a little bit more saturation, maybe a little less brightness. And you can dial in, you know, some interesting stuff that, you know, first glance and for most things do the job. Maybe that's needs to be lighter. But yeah, go ahead and play around with that. You could also, just to make it feel more futuristic, select the whole thing, go to Properties, and take down the opacity a little bit, so we're seeing some of the background in there more. All depends on what you're going for. I'm going to go pretty high, 89%, but that just pulls in some of the background. So there you go. Step one of the 3D process done. And essentially, you just need to go through and do the same things to the other pieces. Let's go ahead and start recording again. Okay, so now if I were to take the clock, we still have that weird hand. It's freaking out on me. Is there any expand appearance? Yeah, that might be the trick. Oh, just grab like a okay, because see, I had grabbed a color from here, and it's trying to add the whole gradient, and it's just being a mess. So that was a bad decision. So I'm going to do the same thing here, and they're not going to stay black, although it looks kind of nice. So maybe they will stay black. Interesting. But say we wanted to pull in the purple again. Just play with these sliders, and now if we grab that other one, bada bing. Okay, that makes me feel better as to why that disappeared on us. So our friend expand appearance saved the day. Okay, so now, you know, we're doing one of these fancy 3D deals where everything is just kind of floating off of the screen. So it looks like this got ungrouped at some point. So I'm going to reselect the clock, everything on there, move it up, and you want to kind of break this barrier here so that it's totally, you know, makes sense that we're breaking the 3D plane. If I hit Command G, I could grab this free transform tool potentially and kind of play with it just in case it's not filling quite on. Looks like, look, yeah, I added this weird raster image in there for when I expanded the appearance on that boy. And now it doesn't want to let it go. Yeah, it's one of those OCD things. But if I come in here, look at my past stuff, you can see I've got this weird clipping group, non-native art. Select that, delete that trash, take this clipping path and grab it out of there. So it's just a path. Okay, we're good. We're good. Okay. So that's floating up there in space. I guess we got to get all these things floating essentially where we want it. You know, you can drag a marquee and then just unselect things you don't want. I'm not happy with the perspective on this, so Just playing with it a little bit more. And of course I grabbed the wrong tool. Just playing with Mr. Clock here. Okay. Getting crazy with it. Okay, now let's select the Thursday box, deselect the stuff we don't want, Command G to group it. It popped up in front of the clock, so we need to Command Shift right bracket to bring that back up. But then we want to just slide this Thursday box up as well. And again, we'll likely have to tweak with the 3D, all depends. Let's grab these month boxes. Grab December 1st, deselect the stuff we don't want, Command G to group it. Then February, deselect the stuff we don't want, Command G. Grab both of those guys at the same time, pull them up, maybe on the same level as the Thursday box, because that looks cool. Grab all the content groups and pull them around together. Maybe this clock needs to be a little higher. It's just, just eyeballing it, using these different tools to land on a decent solution in the end. Okay, so, you could be done here if you want. Just depends on the look you're going for, but I'm going to take it further. So, now this is white, so we've already done something that's white, and that's this, but it isn't completely white. It has a gradient, so I'm going to select that gradient. Okay, one of these. Okay, we got that. Again, we could do some transparency now, but I'll worry about that later. Do the same for these. Select that gradient. Might end up changing the color of those gray boxes. Okay, so we're getting there. Back to the clock. So I am going to double click in here, and therefore it's still grouped. I'm just working inside of it, and then I've grabbed this circle clock face option and drag down, and it might be a good idea to change the color so that we can see it. Send it to the back. Okay, scale it as needed. Let's get back out. Okay, so now we can see the clock has a 3D feel to it a little bit. We'll come back and do the blending on that. I just essentially want to show you on some of these things that may look trickier than others what the process is, and then you can go and do what you like later. Okay, now we're working on these guys, make them 3D. And I think what we're going to want to do is ungroup those, but have them all selected. Let's do property or Pathfinder, combine those together, make compound shape, expand, then grab front set, Command Shift G a couple times, group, make compound shape, expand. And then again, we will use our eyedropper to grab some gradient colors for each of these. Just using the same gradients as we did on the device. Now the moment of truth. Is this going to blend correctly? Of course not. Oh, freaking A. What if we delete that and try duplicating it again? That way we're not doing two separate groups. Try that now. So the first one, so the second one. Anything? No? What do we do? Just like that. Like that. Okay. Now we're in business. So yeah, I ungrouped them separately, and so didn't like that. Again, specified distance, 1 pixel. Okay, so we've got something that's looking 3D. Grab the bottom one. And so just double click in here, grab the bottom gradient thing, and select gradient. We'll add a darker piece in here. See what that does for us. Play with the gradient tool to get what it is you're looking for. Maybe we need to drag another purple up to the top. Okay, let's get out of there. Yeah, so somewhat decent. Okay, and then for the hands, it's just the same process. Command or Option drag, and if you need to scale down the back one a little bit, you can do that. I'm going to darken the back one, and I may or may not put a gradient on these. Don't always need a gradient. Okay, do blend, and as you can see, that kind of creates a gradient for you. Anyways, do the same to this guy, which probably won't notice it much because it's largely behind the other piece. So I'm going to cheat it a little bit and make it the same as back one there. Command left bracket, and then select two shapes. Cool. Yeah, less believable there, I guess, but okay, we never combined these, so let's take that. Whoops. This. That got combined. It done got combined. Wow. That's unfortunate. Okay. And so now that's just a solid black. No gradient. I think we're going to want a gradient here. Oh. Let's make that 1 pixel distance. Okay. Let's take this knot and lighten it up a little. Okay. Then we'll grab this guy on top, and what the heck? Let's just eyedrop the back one and then change it. Gonna get rid of the black. Okay. We're gonna lighten this one up. Cool. So, as you can see, it's not an automatic push a button and we're done. There's a process, but it's starting to look slightly more interesting, I think. Another thing we can do is shadows. That's huge. So it's really going to help sell it. So let's say we want to add a shadow to this hand. So you can go up to the effect menu. There's different ways to add shadows. We're going to do a drop shadow effect, but I could have used a shape and blurred it or something like that. But play around with where that should be. I think we're going to need more of a Y offset. Okay, that's looking good. Decide, do you want that to be black because this hand is completely opaque, or do we want to cheat it a little bit and make it a purple and make it look like it's slightly translucent? And we're on multiply. Let's just go to normal mode. Yeah, and then it looks like something shining through this translucent plastic, and the shadow isn't true shadow. So up to you. Something in between. Opacity, let's drop that to like 30. Okay, so there we go. And then we can easily grab this other one, go to effect, apply drop shadow, and it's going to apply the same settings as our first one. Okay, and now on to the notches in for the clock there. Apply drop shadow. We may or may not want to keep that purple. It's looking alright, actually. So we'll keep it for now. And then I'm going to grab this clock face, apply drop shadow. And this is a different story. We're definitely going to want to edit it because it's farther distance away from the objects behind it. So there's some magic needs to happen. So with that selected, we could go to properties, click on the drop shadow under appearance, and then it brings it up to where we can edit things. And so do an X of 14, a Y of 30. Let's blur it more, 15. And if you really want to get crazy, you could have a separate shadow for this white one and clip it out. I don't know if I'm going to go to that extent for this little tutorial. Let's get out of here, and you can see that's got a little more interest to it. Still not 100% sure about how the perspective is working. So something to play around with, potentially. So I'm going to select this and play with the opacity of the whole thing. That's way too much. What is it, 90? It's kind of just looks muddy. So yeah, probably not that. Let's try a different technique. Let's grab the gradient and put a little transparency into the gradient. So if I select that and go to 80, whoa, it's getting all kind of crazy. Yeah, best leave that alone. I got some other things that I'll show you that will improve things there. And maybe we just want to play with the perspective some more, huh? That's for some reason feeling a little better. Don't know why. chose an interesting subject here. Yep, maybe we're making it worse. Okay, and then it may be a matter of playing with the actual shapes that make up the lip of this thing. Maybe it needs to be thicker here. That'll help things potentially. You know, I'd like there to be a little sharper edge. And so, you know, you can tweak it, dial it in to your heart's content for sure. But we're going to go ahead and move along. So let's go inside of this piece and do the same thing we've been doing. It's just rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. You know, and for this I may want to get rid of white altogether. You know, and we've got this brighter bluish purple going on that would affect kind of the bouncing light. Okay, so you can see there's obviously a lot more tweaking one could do, and it's up to you how far you want to take that. But I'll show you a couple of little things you might consider. So first, I'm just going to make this an edge. Let's turn this whole thing black, turn it into a stroke. Bring up the stroke size, and then object, path, outline, stroke. Okay, now we want to get most of these elements above the stroke. Okay, cool. Now with that stroke selected, grab a gradient. Just grab this bottom one here, and I want to tweak that gradient. Let's make it super simple. So, just something to consider that is an option for you to play with if you want to throw a hinted edge into this phone. Just play with the gradients. Okay. Now, you see that big gradient in the background. I'm going to go to my layers, unlock that, select it, Command C, close that, or lock that layer, lock layer 1, create a new layer, paste it anywhere. Okay, and then we're going to play with blend modes, property, opacity, just say soft light or overlay or screen, whatever you prefer. And then just scale that way down. There's something you can kind of add some more color to in different areas. Okay, we can duplicate it and let's try a different screen type. How about overlay? No. Color dodge, maybe. Yeah. So we're able to get some interesting stuff. Maybe I'll duplicate that one more and make it different color. Go to the gradient instead of purple. Gonna make it white. This one white. Okay, and then properties. Make it overlay or screen. So the sky's the limit here. Well, in your computer, you know, where do you want these little highlights? Just add a little bit more life and flavor. Maybe we need to break up the background as well. Maybe we'll even drag that to the background layer. And there, my friends, just about got it. I haven't decided if I like this stroke that I added or not. Let's try something else here. What if we made this white instead? Yeah, that's a little better. But it's a little strong, so we can take down that opacity. Take it on down. Take it on down. Alright. That's feeling good. What do you think? Hopefully you can use that in your 3D vector illustrations. Hey, thanks so much for joining me here on another journey into the wonderful, wonderful world of creating here on the Create or Die channel. This time we dug into vector illustration in Illustrator. Maybe there's something else you're looking to learn a little bit more about. Hey, drop me a comment, and if I know a thing or two about it, I'll gladly make a video on it. And as always, could really use your help. So if this video helped you and you learned a thing or two, please consider liking and subscribing. Until next time, create or die.